My name's Emily Martin, and I'm taking you behind the scenes to talk to equine artists from around the world. This is Artist Unlocked. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Season 2 of Artist Unlocked. Just a few little housekeeping things I want to address if you're watching this right now, but you might also hear it in the audio. I am filming this during a thunderstorm. It's the literal only time slot in my schedule that I have to film this intro and outro, so I apologize for that, but I'm using a new mic, so hopefully you won't hear too much of the rain and thunder outside. I'm also in a different location than you guys are normally used to seeing me. I'm actually in my sister's room right now. Megan, if you're watching this, don't worry, I didn't touch any of your stuff. My room is just, quite honestly, a mess right now. Can you tell that it's the first week of college classes yet? All that being said, we are here to kick off Season 2 of Artist Unlocked. We're starting off strong with Conveyor 12 Studios. One of the things that always struck me about Joanna is how grain-free her models are, even though she uses pigments and pastels. It always blows my mind when artists can do that, because I started out with pastels and was never able to get over that hump of not having super grainy sand horses. So I applaud Joanna for that. Her work is incredibly smooth, and I'm honored to have her on as the premiere episode for Season 2. I've got some insanely awesome stuff planned for you guys throughout Season 2, but I'm going to keep my lips sealed for now, but don't worry, soon enough you guys will know all of the things I have up my sleeve. This season promises to be an amazing ride. I have 10 mega talented artists for you guys lined up for this season, so definitely hit that subscribe button if you haven't already to stay tuned for all of the amazing things to come this season. Just in case you're new here, I do air the episodes in a variety of ways. The primary launch platform is this YouTube channel, likely what you're watching right now. That way you'll get all of the visuals accompanied with the episode. I try to incorporate pictures and video clips even from the artists so that you guys can really get a feel for their studio workspaces and what they do. But if you prefer to not watch the episodes, I do also post them on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so that way you guys can listen to the episodes while you're painting in the studio or things like that. Some people just prefer to listen that way. But regardless, wherever you're listening or watching to the show, make sure you go ahead and follow or subscribe so that I can continue to make these episodes for you guys. And without further ado, let's get into the episode. So why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself to those who may not know you, how long you've been in the hobby, what you do, things like that.
Okay, hi. My name is Joanna. My studio is called Conveyor 12 Studios. I'm a model horse artist in Manitoba, Canada. I'm 22 years old, and I've been in the hobby now for about 10 years.
So go ahead and just walk me through your journey into the hobby. Did you collect before you started customizing? What was that whole journey like for you?
So my friend actually introduced me first to model horses. She had Schleich. We didn't have Breyers in the area where I lived growing up, so I never got into them as a kid. So she introduced me to Schleich, and I got my first one when I was about 11 years old, and then I was completely hooked. But I actually discovered the hobby through YouTube. I just I searched on YouTube one day, Schleich, and then I came up with all the barn tours and collection tours, which were popular at the time. So that was my intro to the hobby, and that's how I discovered there was a whole model horse hobby. And through that, I saw people had Schleich customs, which I was really interested in. So I used a lot of YouTube tutorials when I was first starting out. So I think I started painting when I was about 13 or 14, and then I've just been painting ever since.
Wow. I feel like that's a younger age to start too, so.
Yeah, they were pretty bad in the beginning, so you can tell.
I think we all start from somewhere.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember the days of like the barn tours and stuff.
Yeah.
So into that.
It was a really big community on YouTube at first, yeah. Especially for the kids and the teens in the beginning.
Yeah, I think like in some ways we all kind of grew up together. So like, I know like my sister and we would play with the Breyers in my room, and we had like a whole barn set up, and we would make videos and tours and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even have shelves for my collections for the first like 4 or 5 years. I just had a farm set up on my floor in my room. Yeah, that's how it started out.
Oh, so when you started customizing, what did you start with? What was that process and how has that progressed to where you are now?
Um, First of all, I just took some like random off-brand plastic horses that I had. So I was like, I'm gonna really customize these. So I'm prepping them really badly. All I had was like, I think acrylic craft paints, like dollar store paints. So just really thick, gloppy paint jobs. I didn't know what I was doing. I actually didn't know anything really about realistic horse colors or anything. So my first custom, I couldn't find it, but I have pictures of it. It wasn't even like a real color. It was like, I think my reference picture was a roan, but I didn't know what that was. So it was a weird color. So I started off with just acrylic paints, and then I got into the pastels after that. And then eventually now I'm working with earth pigments, which, so it's just kind of like a step up from that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I know I've been following you for a while. I remember, your YouTube videos and stuff like that. So I remember when you were not even doing earth pigments yet, you were doing pastels.
Yeah.
And first of all, I just want to commend you. I don't know what you do to make those work for you, but your customs, I feel, at least the ones, obviously, like everybody starts from somewhere, but the ones that I have seen are just so, like, the color is so smooth and solid, and I sort of tried pastels when I first started customizing myself, and so like I would always get like a ton of grain. So props to you because your customs are amazing.
Yeah, my first ones, well, really the first how many years were a long process, a learning curve, because pastels are really like beginner friendly for budget wise. Like they're a good way to start. And of course you can get really expensive high-end pastels. So you can also do really good stuff with pastels. But they're also pretty tricky to get like smooth colors. So it's like pros and cons to them.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess moving into like your studio space or where you work, I know artists have a wide variety of places that they work. Some have dedicated studios, others are just working at like their kitchen table. What has that journey been like for you? Do you have a space now? Have you always had it?
Right now, I have a studio space in like half of a storage room in my basement. I actually started out, I don't know if you remember, I started making Schleich tack in the very beginning.
Yeah.
So that was like the beginning of my studio, like that's where my studio name came from. And that was literally on like a mat behind my door in my bedroom. So that was the beginning of my studio. And then I moved to like the kitchen table, had a studio or a desk set up there, but it's just really awkward in that space. So now I'm in the basement, so it's more private, but eventually I'd love to have a whole studio room with nice windows and a big setup, but it works for now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you feel like having that dedicated space now is like a lot easier for you to do the work that you do? Because I know I go back and forth. Sometimes I'll kind of work in like random areas of my house, but like my main studio is actually like 5 feet that way. It's like a desk in my room. And I find even just having that dedicated desk to not have to like pick everything up after you're done all the time, like makes a huge difference in how I'm able to work.
Yeah, definitely. And previously when my desk was set up kind of like between the kitchen and dining room, it was just really awkward because people would be walking around and they'd be like talking, doing stuff, and I felt so distracted all the time.
Yeah.
So even just to have like a separate room in the basement, it really helps me focus more.
Yeah. So you said you started with pastels and now you're moving into earth pigments. Are those the only mediums you use?
So mainly I use earth pigments and acrylics for details. And then also in the past like year or two, I've started experimenting with doing acrylic base layers, like just hand painted. I just find that saves time and kind of gives it a rich color under the pigments, because otherwise it takes so many layers.
Yeah.
And then also like pan pastels and Pearl X pigments. So just other different pigments that I like to experiment as well, but mainly earth pigments as my main colors.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel you with having to build up layers, because even in a small way, like I kind of feel like I've dipped my toes into most mediums except airbrushing at this point, but I love the look of oils, but I haven't been able to get past the brush strokes with oils, and so a lot of people have told me if you like get an airbrush or hand paint acrylics as like at least a base, that makes a huge difference. So I'm sure it's the same way with like the pigments. It saves a lot of time.
Yeah, I haven't really experimented beyond the pastels and earth pigments, because airbrush, there's just a big startup cost.
Yeah.
And I've just always liked the look of pigments and just, the way you, like the soft colors and shading you can create. I appreciate the artwork of all sorts of different mediums that people do in different combinations. It's amazing. I've just always really liked the loose pigments.
Yeah, they have a richness to them, I feel.
And I also hear that oils have a long drying time, and I don't have that much patience.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So initially I started using like the cobalt dryers, but like those are really, really bad for you. You have to be really careful using them. And like when I first started doing the customizing, I didn't really think much of it. So hopefully I like didn't give myself cancer from that. But I've been told that Perlex, like mixing some Perlex, like a very teeny amount in the oils, helps them dry faster. But that's like the one thing that I hate about oils is how long it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get really amazing results with them. There's a lot of professionals that use them, but I don't have that much patience. And anytime you like try a new medium, you have to buy so many colors, and there's such a cost to starting up with something new. So I've just been happy with what I'm doing and stuck with that.
Yeah. The earth pigments that you use, do you use like the pan pastels, or like, I know there's kind of like a difference between the pan pastels and earth pigments, but like as far as brands, like do you use a specific one?
I use the actual earth pigments brand. That's just what they're called from.
Okay.
I've only seen them on the earth pigments website. I don't know if they're sold anywhere else. Yeah, mainly those are like the actual loose powder in the container, and then pan pastels, they're really concentrated. And they're like the pressed powder, so they are really handy, but you can't mix them as well. And I almost always mix different colors together. I rarely just do like one color at a time. So I like to use a mixture of different ones. Perlex are awesome for adding that glow, especially to the base color.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed experimenting with those as well.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite tools that you use when you're customizing?
One of my recent purchases, well, just a couple months ago, I finally caved in and bought carbide scrapers from Rio Rondo. They're quite pricey, especially like to ship to Canada. So I had been putting them off for a long time, and I finally bought the complete set, and they are amazing for prepping, because I hate prepping. But there's a world of difference. Like, I can't believe how nice they are. I like to get the set from, was it Kelly Seeley?
Yes.
She like the micro set. I want those as well. So
yeah,
those are awesome.
Yeah, they make a huge difference. I'm with you. I hate prepping. Yeah. I try to like put podcasts on and stuff to
definitely
make it better, but sometimes I hate it so much.
Yeah.
I'll ask one more question sort of related to the painting side before I want to take kind of a detour back. But do you have like a favorite scale to work in, or a least favorite scale?
My favorite scale is probably what you call like Schleich or Paddock Pow little bit scale, which I think is a 1/24 scale. So for OF models, really, I've only painted Schleich and Collecta in that scale, but there's also some resins that size, like my Chewy resin. I love that scale. It's like the perfect scale for working with pigments, but you can still add a lot of detail, and it's not as time consuming as like a traditional scale.
Yeah.
For least favorite, micros, just because they're so fragile.
Yes.
They can be a fun little project because they don't take so long, but I've broken ears on a few of them, and they're a pain to fix. So
yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you though with that kind of little bit scale, because I think maybe it's just me finding out about it, but I feel like there's more resins being released in that sort of in between scale, and I love it because you're right. Like, it's not quite as daunting as the traditional, but you can still pack a ton of detail into them. So
and you can get a good hold on with them.
Yeah, so true. I feel like when I'm working with traditionals, like my hand just wants to fall off all the time because they're so heavy.
Yeah.
So then I know some people have, like, they don't feel like there's necessarily a least favorite aspect of the hobby, but do you have at least a favorite aspect of the hobby as a whole? It could be outside of the artistry side of things.
Favorite part, definitely the community. That's why I stay in this hobby, because of the people. I just love being able to like meet with people from across the world, like virtually or even in person at events, and just be able to share this passion for plastic horses. Yeah, and just the people I met. Like, I've met some of my closest friends through the hobby. So that's just, I think, the best part about it.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I don't know if everybody has said that so far, but most people have, which I think is like a testament to how much that impacts all of us. And I really think like it can be an escape from, you know, our busy lives. It's such a niche thing, and it's cool that there's like a whole world. Like I know when I first made my Instagram, like I didn't even know that there was like a whole, you know, art side and the community behind that. So it's really cool to have that.
Yeah, and there's definitely been phases where I haven't collected any new horses or even painted much. So that's like, yeah, there's been times where I thought maybe I would like losing interest in the hobby, but then it was definitely the community that kept me there and the friends. And I think without that, I wouldn't have stayed in it necessarily, unless you're constantly buying new horses, because otherwise you don't have that excitement to keep you there.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any best moments in the hobby, any like fun memories, trips you've been on related to the hobby, things that just stick out to you?
I haven't had that many specific like stories because I've only met hobbyists in person twice. One time was at a very small live show, and the other time was Breyers. So Breyers is definitely the highlight of my experience. Yeah, that was just the most amazing thing. We drove like 19 hours from Canada.
Wow.
And that was the first time that I got to see all these other collectors, you know, touring the Clarion and just seeing, there's other crazy people like me who are really into these model horses. Yeah, that was just like a magical experience.
Yeah, for sure. I've only been to one Breyerfest as well, and I would love to go back one day. It's such a, I mean, especially for you, goodness, like to get there is such a trip. You really have to make like a whole week of it. Yeah, it's a really cool, unique thing. Do you have any tips for young artists that are looking to do what you're doing?
Obviously, I think everyone says this, is practice. Of course, you can only get better with practice and time. I found as I was learning it, sometimes it was kind of discouraging to see all these professionals who have like the most amazing work. So I can just say, like, don't compare yourself to those top professionals. Like, just focus on what you're learning and what you're doing, because it just takes time and it takes practice to get there. But also there's so many amazing resources online now, like NamoPaymo, the Facebook group is like the most amazing resource for beginners.
Yeah.
And now I go in there and I can ask for help when I'm doing something. But yeah, especially for beginners, you can ask questions about literally any step of the customizing process. And even asking for help from different artists. Not everybody is as open to like giving tips and revealing their secrets, I guess. But like, I love to answer any questions that people ask in comments or DMs. So most people are willing to help out young customizers.
Yeah, I love that aspect, because I mean, the way I look at it anyway is even if an artist were to tell someone starting out exactly how they do something or what they use, like, we're all unique, and so each result is going to be different anyway. So yeah, I love that the majority of people anyway are open to giving tips to people that want help or looking to start out, because I think it really helps foster that community aspect.
Oh, definitely. And I don't know, I feel like there's almost been a trend where people are more open about their techniques, because I remember when I began, the, like, I guess more beginner or intermediate level people were more willing to help, but a lot of people, they're like, no, I won't reveal my secrets. Like, they'd have that in their bio on Instagram or whatever. I'm like, that's so intimidating. Like, they're like, don't ask me questions. And I feel like I see a lot more people, especially through things like NamoPaymo, I see like the top artists on there, and they'll like give suggestions, say the supplies they use. And I find that's really helpful, because you can use the exact same supplies, follow their steps, and still have a different outcome, because everybody is just different in their techniques.
Yeah, so true. I think like events like NamoPaymo they've been really healthy for the hobby too, because it kind of gives us one area to all congregate, and like you said, it's such a encouraging community. And then at the end we all get to celebrate, you know, what we've accomplished during that month. So I personally would love to see more of those things, and I think there is more of a trend starting in that area, at least with quarantine and everything. I know there have been more challenges out there and stuff like that.
No, I definitely think NamoPaymo is like one of my favorite aspects of the hobby in the last few years. It's just been such a positive community, and I love that it's like brought so many people together.
What are either some things or one thing that you'd like to see more of in the hobby?
I'm not sure of anything too specific. One thing is, this might sound kind of silly, but more consideration for the international collectors and hobbyists, because so often, not only is it hard to get stuff here and it's like expensive, but a lot of people, they just forget about anything outside of the US. It's very US based, and a lot of people won't even ship out of the US, and I understand that some people have their reasons, but yeah, I guess just remember us too. I always get excited when I find a fellow Canadian hobbyist.
Yeah, I think there's so much outside of the US that is just like kind of what you said, like untapped. And then you guys have to, I know a lot of people, what they'll do is they kind of find someone to like proxy for them.
I live like 20 minutes away from the US border actually, so before the whole COVID-19 thing, I would sometimes ship models to a depot across the border, and I would drive there to go pick them up because a lot of people won't ship to Canada, or it's just so expensive.
Yeah.
So I have done that before.
That's lucky that you live so close that you can just over and back. Is that intimidating for you? Like,
it is. I don't like to go alone because I don't like dealing with the border security, and always give me weird looks when I try to explain that I'm buying a model horse.
Yeah, I can imagine like you trying to explain like, I'm just going over there real quick, grabbing a plastic pony and then coming back. Like,
yeah, and they always make me unbox it so I can show what it is. So I'm like, this is what I bought, just holding it up. Very awkward.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine having to go through that, and especially like you said, by yourself. I guess overall, what does the hobby mean to you?
I feel like everything. No, the hobby is like, I feel like one of my biggest passions, I guess, because it's my creative outlet in the artistic side, and also just the fun of collecting, because I also enjoy collecting on the side as well. So it's just such a huge aspect of my life. And with all the people that I met, like I have so many friends in the hobby. Yeah. So it's just like a place of positivity and creativity. And especially now, I've really noticed amidst this pandemic, when I go on like online on other social media, it's just like so much toxic negativity and all this stuff, like it just stresses me out. And then I go to like one of the Facebook groups and people are just sharing the new ponies, and it just makes me so happy. It brings me so much joy in that way. So yeah, it's just a really positive part of my life.
Yeah.
I feel like.
That's, yeah, I had to like delete Twitter for a little while just because it was so negative. But I like, the one thing I like would not get rid of is like my art Instagram, because I have like, you know, a personal Instagram too. But yeah, I think for the most part we tend to stay pretty positive.
Yeah, there's definitely drama and yeah, all that. But usually I feel like I stay out of it. Maybe I am entertained by reading the comments sometimes, but generally, yeah, people stick to just the model horse topics.
Yeah, I think it's some of that, I think, has to do with the fact that like it's so predominantly female. And I know, like, for instance, totally outside of the hobby, I worked at PetSmart for a while, and I worked in their like pet hotel. And it was all like, or mostly girls there. And like the first day I remember coming home and I just felt so bad about myself because they were so cliquey without even meaning to. So I think that can kind of play into like the cliquey aspect of the hobby sometimes. But yeah, I think we're pretty positive. Mm-hmm. What are your future goals? And this could be short-term or long-term, and related to your art or just goals you have for the hobby in general.
One of my short-term goals, I guess, I would like to set up a proper studio space. I have plans right now, actually. I want to switch my bedroom to downstairs to a spare bedroom and move my studio up to my current room I'm in right now, because it has a really nice window and natural lighting. So that's one thing I'd like to do. And then a bigger goal is I would really like to be able to do my model horse art as like a part-time job, like actually making serious income. And I know there's pros and cons to that as well, but I feel like if you actually can dedicate that much time to it, you can just expand your skills so much and be able to have that time to work on it, because right now I always feel like I don't have the time to finish customs and commissions as much as, or as fast as I'd like to.
Yeah.
So I would definitely like to be able to do that someday.
Yeah.
Or at least try it, see how it works.
Yeah, I think DJB said that she like kind of took the quarantine as like her
I saw that
reason to be, or to try at least what it would be like to be full time. So yeah, that would be the dream.
and I don't think I could ever do it full time, because the amount you'd have to paint, or you'd have to unless you're one of the top people.
Yeah, unless you can sell your work for like $6,000 then it's like.
But definitely, if it's like a part-time income, I think that would be fun to try.
Yeah. Do you have like a story behind how you came up with your studio name, or was it just something that you came up with at the time? And
so my name was created when I made my YouTube channel, which is private now, so you can't find it. But that's because that's how I started in the hobby. And a lot of people had studio names, so I guess I started that because I had tack. But I literally asked my friend who's not in the hobby for a studio name, and she randomly said Conveyor 12 Studios. And it stuck. There's been times where I've wanted to change it. I'm like, is it too weird? But I also feel like then people maybe remember it. So there's not any special significance behind it. It's totally random.
That's awesome though.
That's just what I've stuck with now.
Yeah, that's kind of the same for me. I just kind of sat down and was like, well, I need a name. And I just kind of.
I mean, I guess there's worse things I could have come up with at 11 years old, so. Yeah. I like it. I think it's cool, and you're right. I think it's unique enough that people like remember it. So I want to turn over the last little bit to you to plug your work, where people can find you, what they should be looking out for in the future for you, things like that. Okay, well, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Conveyor 12 Studios. I'm way more active on Instagram. My Facebook page is a bit dead. I need to work on that. Also have my website, conveyor12studios.com. Then for future projects this summer, once I'm caught up with commissions, I have a bunch of Breyer customs planned as sales pieces, because I haven't really been able to do that much in the last few years. So I've bought a bunch of Breyer traditionals, I have stablemates, even Schleich and Collecta waiting to be painted. So I'm just going to take a break from commissions for a bit and just try different colors and patterns that have scared me. Just experiment a bit, and then hopefully have some sales pieces available.
Awesome. I'll definitely keep an eye out for those. Thank you so much for taking the time and being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right, you guys, that was the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I will definitely leave all of Joanna's links below for you guys to go and check her out. If you want a more behind the scenes look on the show, definitely go ahead and follow my Instagram. It's Frost Studios Equine Art. You're especially going to want to follow me on there for this season, because I'm going to have some really big announcements that are going to go live on my Instagram first before they reach this channel. So you're definitely going to want to go ahead and follow me on there to stay up to date with all of the announcements. Stay tuned for next week's episode featuring Autumn Wood Studios. And again, just in case you guys are new to this series, episodes do go live every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!